On this episode of The Exchange, Amani Simpson talks about how he turned his life around after being the victim of a brutal knife attack. And I speak to Tanayah Sam about why positive role models can give young people the motivation they need to escape criminal exploitation. Amani, I know you from the film that you created with your friend and actor Javon Wade about really the story of your attack in 2011. Can you just say a bit about what happened on that day?
Man, I guess the the main thing is I lost track of my path. I'd made so much good progress from, some of the bad choices I'd made at 16, and I was on such a good pathway. And then that night I just forgot all the progress I'd made and got sucked into this argument. And as my mum always said, I should have just minded my business, should have learned that from school. And yeah, I ended up coming face to face with some boys that had, I guess, had many traumatic experiences, and had decided that their way of handling situations is with violence and using knives, etc. And I stepped into their world and I said the wrong things that I guess really challenged those young men. The ambulance was called, my mum and dad came down and they were praying and they were, save my son, God, all that kind of stuff. And in the ambulance, I had this very surreal conversation with God. And I just said, if you're real, like I want to live. I've got so much to give this earth. I'm not ready to go just yet. And when I got to the hospital, the doctor said I should be dead or disabled. So it's a blessing. It's a big blessing to be here and to be part of the change that I want to see.
If we go back from that point to when you were a bit younger, you were at school in Enfield. How did you find it there?
So I initially went to a private school, a private prep school. So I'm coming in as this kind of privileged boy into an area that hasn't got a lot of privilege. And so what happened is they were like, well, who's this guy? Why has he got all of this stuff? And maybe isolated me a little bit. And then I was like, why are these guys isolating me? I'm trying to assimilate to be like my peers. And so that just followed me through school. I just started to, put this mask on every day to survive, and got into a lot of trouble. So I actually ended up getting expelled from school in year 9, going to a pupil referral unit. I didn't really pay attention and left school with no GCSE. So my school experience wasn't the greatest.
And what impact do you think those expulsions had on you?
Major impact. It made me begin to doubt myself. It made me kind of put a lot of labels on myself: disruptive, delinquent, disobedient, all of these. That was 3 Ds, I didn't even mean to do that, but all of these different labels that I guess held me back, and there just wasn't the right interventions in place in order to help me to find myself, or to unpack some of the challenges I'd had. I didn't have that at all, until maybe later on in my school years. And by that time it's too late. So definitely had a massive impact on how I saw myself and what I thought was possible for a boy like me that was always getting in trouble.
Tanayah, you're the founder and CEO of TSA Sports and Education, which helps young people find a really positive path through life. How did you get to where you are today?
Hi, Hannah. Thanks for having me. So it's come about through my own personal experiences, being a young person who was caught up into criminal behavior, falling out of the educational system, going into what I call the prison industry, and being involved in county lines myself as a young person. I felt like I was failed. And when I was in custody, I had this passion to support other prisoners to exit out of the lifestyle, even though I'm in prison with them. And it just kind of built from there. So when I came out of prison, I just wanted to follow through and support other prisoners that are still in the prison system, and also support young people away from going in there in the first place. And that's how TSA Sports and Education CIC was formed, and that's what we're doing currently.
And the media and government refer to something called child criminal exploitation. Can you explain a bit about what that is?
When the government and media mention it, it's more predominantly around a young person who is coerced, manipulated, groomed into criminality. But I would also add opportunism as many young people find opportunity by going on a criminal path, but at the same time they are being exploited within that. There are young people who are seeing day in and day out on their YouTube, on social media, other young people who are coming from similar backgrounds and who actually speak about committing crime openly, and them getting record deals and getting sponsorship by clothing brands. And so again, young people will see there's an opportunity there to go down a particular path because they're wanting to get to where whoever it is they're looking up to want to get to that position. So these are all little factors which play into the child criminal exploitation, in my opinion.
And obviously the lifestyle to some extent looks glamorous. Can you kind of give us an insight into this particular lifestyle?
Well, if you're a young person, imagine a young person who he's struggling, coming from any broken home. They may have some mental health issues within the family, or some drug addiction in the family, or there might have been some sexual exploitation taking place. Coming from an area where there's gun violence, where they're hearing about stabbings, and then they go onto their phone and then they see individuals that are coming from the same location that are rapping or that are on social media, and they're driving a Rolls Royce in their video. And they've got, these vodka bottles and these brandy bottles, and they've got all these designer clothes, and they're in the videos flashing money. For a young person, they're just thinking, wow, I want some of that.
What's the reality?
The reality is they might have that, they might get that, but then it also comes with prison, it comes with being robbed, it comes with being physically harmed, it comes with dangers every single day. And on a greater scale, it's a destroying of society, isn't it? Because people being addicted to drugs, that's never a good thing. It destroys the places where we live. And so young people are being manipulated and fooled to think that the money is off the back of that is a good thing, and that is never a good thing. It can only bring destruction and harm.
If a person is caught up in criminal exploitation, how are they going to find a way out of that?
That's a brilliant question. From my opinion, I would say that you can't tell someone to stop doing something unless you give them something else to do, because if that's become a habit or that's been embedded in their lifestyle or environment, that's going to find their way back to them soon enough. But what we have to remember is when these young people are in these spaces and they're doing crimes, it's for money. Yeah. So you can't tell a young person, stop making money because mum's hungry and I want to have the new trainers and I want to drive a nice car because that's what I see as successful. So I think that's how we have to shift it. If we're going to talk to young people, we have to give them tangible things that are going to help them to move away from that lifestyle and make better choices.
And that definition of success, seeing fast cars, money, and all of that, where do you think that comes from? Media
perceptions. And unfortunately, the people that, or the industries that are funding this type of narrative are very separated from the problem. We look at TV, film, music. These industries is entertainment, right? These young kids are seeing these kids from their block, from their area, making it and being like, I know him. He walked on my street, so it must be possible. It's tangible for them now. So it's how do, we're up against a massive battle, because until we have alternatives that are equally as loud and attractive to these young people, and actually achievable, that's always going to be the winning narrative. I think sometimes us as adults, we talk down on young people, and it's about giving them the abilities to use their voice and say, what is it that you would like to happen, and help them to implement that as well in their own space. And I think that's also part of the solution.
Obviously, you were a victim of this brutal knife attack that you spoke about at the start. What do you think can prevent this sort of knife attack happening to people?
You know what? It's a multifaceted answer. At the immediate end, of course, things like stop and search and having police, I guess, on the streets in order to stop those kind of reoccurring offenders, if you want to call it that. from causing havoc and destroying their lives and other people's lives. It's important to do that. But alongside all of that, you need to make sure that there's the right interventions in place. It's not just about arresting your way out of this issue. It's about making sure that these young people are given interventions, that their parents are supported, that the environment that they're in has the right resources provided. There's statistics to show that you can track a young person's trajectory from primary school. You know, I was getting in trouble when I was 5 years old, and if you can see certain triggers that are gonna say, okay, well, statistically, this young person's odds of being successful are quite slim because of the fact he's grown up in poverty. He might have a single parent, his mum's not working, or whatever the case may be. There's dyslexia in the family, all of these different factors. How can you help that family as early as possible in order to give them a better shot at succeeding and kind of change the odds for them? So I think it's a multi-faceted approach.
You mentioned stop and search before. Some people do promote this as a solution to knife crime. But do you think there are any problems with this approach?
Massively. Stop and search is historically ineffective. You know, the stats show that there's only a particular, there's a small number of actual arrests and outcomes that come from stop and search. A lot of it is based on bias and stereotypes, and it causes a massive rift between those that have been stopped and those that, you know, and obviously the police themselves. And so it's not helpful. And I'm not saying that there isn't a need to have that element in policing, but it has to be policing by consent.
Obviously, like, the support network is, I guess, the most important thing for these children. You use sport to help inspire young people. How do you actually do this?
We educate young people through the social issues that they're facing, and we tend to use sport to accompany with the educational side of things. So whether it's football, whether it's cricket, whether it's dodgeball, you know, rock climbing, bike riding, all of these things, sports is great for physical and mental well-being. And I found that when I was inside and working in prison, the one place where prisoners would be really more positive and feel good about themselves was in the gyms, and the one place where there wouldn't be no riots and no major disruption will be in the gym. And so I thought, wait, well, actually, why not try that with young people, with the issues and experiences they're having, and using sport? And I've found it being really beneficial both in the community and in schools where we do this. So yeah, for me, sports is a no-brainer.
Why is it so important for all young people to have role models to look up to?
I think role models guide, inspire, motivate people, and for many young people, they've been inspired, motivated, and been guided down a wrong path because they're looking at the wrong role models. You know, we all get inspired and motivated by somebody, no matter how old we are. Somebody can just make us say, you know what? Yeah, man, I'm going to go about it doing this way. And so for me, I hope that I could be somebody who's a positive figure to other young people. And we are keen on constantly showing young people other individuals who are positive in their beings. And hopefully young people can take inspirations from what they're doing.
What would you say to people who are watching this who are perhaps feeling worthless and without direction in their life?
Man, that's a great question. Fundamentally, that feeling of worthlessness has probably started from someone else, and then they have replayed it over and over in their head. So the first thing I'd encourage anyone to do is to just try and change the soundtrack that they listen to about themselves. And that can be done by things like affirmations. Affirmation is one of those things where people are like, it's weird. Why am I going to say I'm a champion, I'm a superstar, I deserve to be loved? Why would I say that stuff in the mirror? But what it does is your subconscious doesn't know any different. So when you say these positive things, these loving words to yourself, you begin to absorb it. And I feel like as you go on a journey, as you grow through your life, you'll begin to kind of reverse that narrative of you can't do it, you're rubbish, just by shifting it and saying, I can do it. I can do it.
And can you tell us a bit about the work that you're now doing with young people?
So off the back of our film, Amani, we released it last year in January. We had 1 million views in 4 days. We've just celebrated having 3 million views on YouTube. So you guys can check out the reunion when you go and watch this back. And the whole point of that film was for me to use it as a tool for conversation. So I've gone into loads of schools. I think we've engaged over 15,000 young people since the film came out. And the narrative shifts because there's enough weapons awareness workshops, right? But as I always say, guns and knives don't kill people, people do. So if you don't work on the person, then that's what the outcome's going to be.
But it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, Amani. And yeah, I will make sure that we post your video on Instagram so that people can check that out. But it's incredibly inspirational. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you.